All right, welcome back. We continue with the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, talking about the Steelers now. Got a game this Friday here on KDKA-TV at MetLife Stadium against the Giants. No Marc Davis Bryant in that game. He hasn't even been able to practice. So Tim Benz, the other day at night practice, he shows up as if he's going to practice. There were rumors circulating that he had been cleared, and all of a sudden, no. What's up with this?
Yeah, it felt to me like Jimbo Fisher and Jameis Winston 2.0. Remember that from college football a year or two ago when Jameis came out in his pads and Jimbo Fisher had to yell him to go back in the locker room and take him off. No, you're not even allowed to be out here for pregame warm-ups, that sort of thing. It felt like the same level of miscommunication to me, and that led me to wonder, as you have heard so repeatedly from Kevin Colbert and the Steelers, that they are not involved in this process at all. It's strictly between the union, the player, and the agent, and the league to figure out when he's coming back. Then why between the team and the player as to whether or not he can dress for practice? Somewhere along the way, the team needs to be more directly involved in these discussions and should be allowed to facilitate this a little bit more. I don't know why the league has made that taboo, and if they haven't made it as taboo as the Steelers want it to be, I don't know why there's this double secret layer between the team and the player and the league. I don't get it. They should be more of an obvious conduit.
Would we put it past Marc Davis Bryant to try to sneak himself onto the field as he's watching all these other wide receivers have a great opening to training camp just so he could get some reps in? I don't think I would. I know it sounds goofy, but I could see him trying to get out there and get a few reps in just because he feels like he's losing his whatever foothold he may have on a job.
I mean, am I going to put it past him? Then the last 6 months he's sneaked a doobie? I don't know. I mean, to me, I do not have... Bob is like basically Martavis Bryant's second agent. Bob believes he's going to look like Larry Fitzgerald in his prime this year.
But I think he's going to have a heck of a season.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna buy into this guy. As a self-loathing Mets fan, I had to endure Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry and these guys that would tell people I've changed. I'm ready. My priorities are online, and they never got it. And
what does he have to do, though? He has not imploded since then. He's met everything.
Well, it's a pretty narrow window, Bob.
Yeah, Bob, it's not like he's 10 years reformed here.
If he was going to have problems, to me, it would have been during this year absence when he wasn't around the team at all. I thought there are the potholes. He's going to fall in one, but he didn't.
Maybe he didn't.
Told me he's passed every random test that he's taken, so...
Well, he hasn't been completely cleared yet, Bob, so I'm not ready to do cartwheels for the guy.
Well, I'm just saying, I think he can be a difference maker, and I think he's going to be motivated like he's never been before. Let me ask you guys this. Jason Lock-on-Forest, CBS Sports, came out and said he believes the Steelers, because of this division, could have it wrapped up by Thanksgiving time. So, Andrew, if that's going to happen, what is the #1 thing they have to do? What area do they need to improve on for it to happen?
Well, I want to see them deliver on the promise of being one of the NFL's most dynamic offenses. And unfortunately, last year, they were tied with the Buffalo Bills in points per game, which to me is not exactly screaming greatest show on turf or putting them in the conversation with the 2007 Patriots. Now, I think this team, if Bryant can keep his head on straight and Bell gets himself there 2 weeks before the season starts, which I think he will, this team should average close to 30 points a game. The Falcons did it 13 times last year. The Steelers only did it 6. So I want to see that offense this season. They do that, they'll run away with the division.
I want to see the secondary get better and get the ball back more often. I want to see more sacks from the front seven. But I'm also going to underscore Andrew's point because Todd Haley said something very interesting to me in training camp this week. He said, and I got this actually from a couple of the players too, that Haley has been pounding them over the head about ball security, which is kind of funny to me because they were in the bottom third in giveaways. And on top of that, they were the least fumbling team in the National Football League last year. Now, Ben had 13 picks in 14 games. So who do you think Todd is subtly talking about? Now, there might be brilliance on Todd's part to say the quarterback needs to take care of the ball better without calling out the quarterback, because we all know how that would have gone over. But to me, I don't think turnovers were that big of a problem for the Steelers last year. I think the bigger issue, to Andrew's point, might have been just scoring the ball in the red zone, where they were tied for 16th in the league last year in touchdown efficiency in the red zone. They should be better than that.
I'll take the other side of the ball and say I want to see what happens when this defense's depth and experience get tested. We're talking about nearly 45% of the snaps that could be taken on this defense taken by guys who have played less than 16 games, regular season games in the NFL. Guys who are still learning. Guys who, yes, did improve wildly in the second half of last season and into the playoffs, but you have to continue to see that, and the only way to do that is to remain healthy and be on the field. if they get more than 1 or 2 injuries on this defense, they could be in for a world of trouble.
If they win this division by Thanksgiving, it will no doubt be because Ravens can't score. They need a quarterback if Flacco can't go on. Yet, nobody seems to want Colin Kaepernick. But if there's a team that seems to indicate indirectly that they want him, it is Baltimore. Andrew, John, is due diligence out there. They're kicking the tires. Should they do it, and why hasn't any team done it yet?
Well, they should, because Colin Kaepernick has played well for the guy that runs the offense. Greg Roman and Colin Kaepernick, made sweet music together for a couple of years in San Francisco. There is a relationship there. Colin Kaepernick last year had a higher quarterback rating than Joe Flacco. I think Flacco's coming off his worst season in a Ravens uniform. Gimpy back, bad knee from the year before. If they're going to do anything with a banged-up Flacco, it's not going to be with Ryan Mallett under center. It's going to be with a guy that has gone to a Super Bowl more recently than Ben Roethlisberger or Aaron Rodgers. So, yes, they should sign Colin Kaepernick and then deal with the repercussions later.
Yeah, when it comes to bringing in somebody who's socially unpopular with a portion of your fan base, I mean, no one was more against the Michael Vick than I was for the non-football reasons, and I was pretty outspoken about it. But at the same time, I always also said it made the most move football-wise because at the time he was perceived to be the best quarterback available. I think it's the same thing for the Ravens. They've just got to figure out which side of the political fence they want to tune out. Are they making a lot of people mad in Baltimore because they think they're shutting out a guy who, in their opinion, just spoke his mind? Or are they going to tick off the portion of the fan base who feels like the flag has been violated by what he said? I think they're having a hard time wrestling with that right now.
And their ownership needs to figure out if they're fully over the PR fallout of the Ray Rice scandal, which I think is part of what's holding them back as well. The court of public opinion is important. I think if they want to win football games, yes, by all means, bring Colin Kaepernick in, except for those 2 games where you play the Steelers and you put Ryan Mallett in there.
Isn't that the mission statement of every team, Chris, to win football games?
It should be, but with Steve Bisciotti, I think that could be called into question.
Yeah, they start 0-4. You'll see them do something because that fan base will be chirping about not winning games. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about other Steeler topics, including the Hall of Honor and Brady versus Crosby. Who's going to have more rings when it's all said and done? That's next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.